I moved my whole life overseas last month, and here's how it's gone. I wanted to share what the first month in a new country has been like, challenges I've had to overcome. I'm going to structure it because I tend to ramble. What happened, what it felt like, and what I've learned. And the aim of this video is to just help someone that probably was in my shoes. I'm talking to myself from a month ago, and I'm also talking to people that are looking at moving countries. I'm talking to people that are considering the next move or currently going through their own transition, see how I can share my own perspective and my own experience throughout the journey. Good and bad. That's really important because I feel like I can show my highlight reel, but then I can also show what the challenges have been and what's been the reality of particular things moving over here. Arriving in Vancouver, I think I've reflected on that in one of my earlier videos. It's very stark when you arrive. The big thing is getting your bearings initially. I think it's really important when the first time you're moving overseas somewhere is make sure that you have a stable base to go back to for at least the first 3 to 4 days, if not a week. For myself personally, I liked that breathing room of 3 days in a nice Airbnb, kind of near the city, so I can explore, come back, have a really decent shower. I'm not around too many people because that's what I vibe. I really like my own time until I'm ready to socialise and be in the mix and be amongst things. When I arrived in Vancouver, I'd already set up an Airbnb in this suburb called Kitsilano, which is kind of like St Kilda if you're from Melbourne, or just a beachy side, kind of like a Gold Coast. It's a nice spot, I really like it. It's quite expensive, so the Airbnb wasn't cheap. I had no idea that I was going to arrive during the middle of the World Cup. I'd booked everything, my flight, and prepped all my bits and pieces before I left. Had no idea the year of the World Cup, had no idea they were playing matches in Vancouver. And then probably 2 months out from my trip, or a month or so out from my trip, I've looked at the pricing for hostels and stuff and looking for accommodation. Everything was exorbitant compared to when I came over in winter a few years ago and everything was dirt cheap and no one was in the hostels. I could barely find a hostel. I thought, what the hell is going on? Is summer that popular? I slowly realised when I got there, it was just rammed with people. It was just packed. You could barely move in the town, which is it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun when you see the streets packed with people for any kind of event. I don't think it'll ever be that busy next summer, in my personal opinion. Arriving in Vancouver, I stayed at an Airbnb in Kitsilano for a few nights. Because I'd been before, I wanted to see a lot of the stuff that I'd seen before, get my familiarity. If you've been to the country already before as like a little holiday, go back to a spot that you remember. See what it's like. It's 5, 6, 7, 10 years later. I would like to travel to Europe again some point, and that was when I was 20. A few days, it'll be coming up to 10 or 11 years since I've been to Europe. If I go back there, there'll be heaps of spots and cool things that I can check out and see again. That would probably give me some bearings of like, I remember this spot, and then it gives you the confidence to kind of like, oh, okay, I've seen that already. I know where this is. I know these sort of parts. Getting your bearings, having a few days to breathe, that's what I did anyway. After I arrived in Vancouver, I walked 2 marathons in steps. Whether that's healthy or not, I don't know. Just wanted to explore as much as I can, see as much of the city as I can. I went up and down all the streets of Vancouver City too, just to see what everything looked like. It'd been a few years, obviously not much has changed. Just cool to have a look around and like, oh, there's Granville. Oh, there's the Roxy where I went on a night out and got plastered. That's, oh, cool. I quickly ventured from Vancouver City, which is the main island where the airport is, surrounding towns. When you look at the map of Vancouver itself, there's Vancouver Island, and there's also North Vancouver, the city of Vancouver. Downtown is pretty much what they call that space, and then the surrounding suburbs, you've got Burnaby on the right-hand side, and then Richmond down below, which is where the airport is. Then you can keep going out towards outer suburbs, and you can keep going north towards a bit more rural North Vancouver, where Whistler is. Whistler's up North Vancouver. The fact that I know my bearings that way has been really helpful, I suppose, for the later in this month, communicating with locals and communicating with people. And I'd always use Stanley Park or Granville Island as a reference point, so to see how far I was from the city, because that's where I keep gravitating back towards. Is that a seal? I think that's a seal. That's cool. Cute little seal. So after I got my bearings in Vancouver City, I then headed off to Gabriola Island, which I'm on now, and that's where I met the older couple. They're in their 70s. They're lovely, Rob and Hillary. They had the van, 90s camper van. This is the good and the ugly part. The good part was that it was a van that allowed me for the last month to tour around the whole of Vancouver Island, explore up and down Gabriola Island, either end. It supplied me with accommodation for I think 11 or 12 nights. A saver in really getting a lot of money saved as well. Surprisingly really good for toilets. The good part is that the convenience of being able to drive around, I wouldn't have been able to explore half the stuff I had this month if I had not have had a vehicle. That's the amazing lucky part. The ugly part is that the van guzzled fuel. And because it's a 90s camper van, unfortunately hasn't been serviced for a year. Rob, he's never used it. So I was the first person to probably use it since he bought it off his friend. I realised a number of functional things. You realise after you start driving and you spend a lot of time in it, oh, okay, shit, this doesn't work. And when he was showing me the van when I was on the island, in person, he tried lighting the fridge and like getting the gas to work for the fridge. Didn't work. A couple of times I'd try and work the power. 12 volt USB would work, charge would work, so I could charge my phone while I was driving, thank goodness. A lot of camper vans come with actual power that you can plug in, like your appliances. That power didn't work on the van, and neither did the fridge, and the fridge was kind of swinging open, so I couldn't use the fridge while I was going. Silly me, Rob and Hillary had offered up their cutlery and pans and had put a whole heap of stuff in the van for me, but the one thing I forgot was a fucking pan. So I had no pan the whole time. I'd left the island and then I was like driving, and then I realised I'll buy some meat, but before I buy some meat I'll just make sure I've got everything in the cupboards and there's something in there. I regret not checking that. All it was like knives, plates, cups, and then I realised there's no pan. So I was in Tofino. I went shopping for some big groceries and realised I can't cook any meat and veggies. The stove works, the gas works, so you could turn on the heat and the heat would work and the fan worked. And being a little defiant and being like a little bit like, oh, well, you know, I'll just make do without it, I ended up working out via AI, like ChatGPT, like what's a good diet to have, what's some good staples that I can get from the supermarket that don't require like me cooking on a stove. The staples that I ended up buying were like canned tuna, canned salmon. I could go on about this van actually, there's so much to the van. Canned salmon, canned tuna, carrots, bananas, apples, not like fruit they have to put in the fridge for a while. Oranges can get a bit messy cutting them up. And nuts, tortilla chips and wraps. I found that really cool. Those staples helped me, and I put them in a big box. They lasted for a considerably long time. Like if I was really disciplined across those 10, 12 days, I would have stuck to that sort of diet. I did end up spending a fair bit on takeaway because I think just initial stress of the van and using it and dealing with sleeping in new places each night, especially right at the start when I'm like, I'm gonna get booked here, it's quite overwhelming. It guzzled fuel. I try and get from one end of the island to the other, filled up 100 Canadian dollars, probably 4 or 5 times. I think I spent over like $600 on fuel, which is quite a lot compared to what the amount of fuel I spent on the rental car when I was here last. It's a double-edged sword. I got to see so much, I couldn't drive it beyond 80 kilometers an hour. There was one time where I got up to probably about 90 or 95 or 100 because it is so frustrating being the guy that is going 70 to 80 kilometers on a freeway that's 110 because I can't go faster than that because I'm gonna wreck the van. I heard this bag of marbles just dropped from the van, just like I just released a trap from James Bond or something. What the hell was that? Still not sure what that was. If anyone has a car guy or a van guy and you know a van woman or a van non-binary van person, if you know what happened or what that is, it'd be great. I'd love to know what happened because I still don't. I don't drive it over 80 kilometers an hour, and I'm really debating whether I take it off the island with me because I think you get charged extra for using the van on ferries to get to Gabriola Island from the mainland Vancouver. It was a ferry over here. So I went from Horseshoe Bay down to Nanaimo, which was a 2-hour ferry. You get there half an hour before your ferry time, $22.95 Canadian for me. You can do it at the non-rush times, and that gets you like 15, 16 Canadian one way. So I paid that on the way here, and then it's another 2 hours to cross, and then another probably 20 minutes when you're docking. The whole process can take 3 hours to get that initial ferry. And then there's another ferry from Nanaimo to Gabriola. The Nanaimo to Gabriola ferry is probably 20 minutes, But again, all up, you're probably waiting there for 15 minutes depending on how you get there. Buy a return ticket, so you only have to pay for one way. The camper van's not really an RV, but I got charged for an oversized vehicle on one way over, 30 something bucks. I got charged for a normal vehicle the other time, and that was like 20 something dollars, but that's return. So you pay for one way across to Gabriola Island, and then you don't pay on the way back. Interestingly, on the island, you have to line up at a certain point behind a big row of cars. Because of the max capacity of the ferry, there's a chance that you could be waiting in line and then miss that ferry and have to wait for the next one. But they run every 20 or 30 minutes, except Robert Hillary said that there's certain times that they take, say, explosive toxic stuff over, or certain dangerous goods over. So that can cause even more of a delay. I can't remember the days that they're taken over, but it's just, I think just being mindful, if you are going to come over here, be mindful of timing, and timings for ferries too. When I was here a few years ago, I got stuck in, I think it was Victoria, and I slept in my car because I missed the last ferry and I wasn't sure where to head back to. I didn't know if I had to go to Nanaimo or Victoria, and I ended up going through a back road that I wasn't meant to go through, went through a logging road and got stuck. Vancouver Island travel, there's no two ways about it. If you want to travel the whole island, hire a car, hire something. It can be a fuel efficient car. You don't need to necessarily get like a ridiculous big camper van. It does help. If you can get like a minivan, or you can, potentially sleep in your car. I feel like Vancouver Island, you need to travel around in a car. How I started was, it was based on my pet sits. Luckily, Rob and Hillary were very generous enough to let me stay for a few nights in Gabriola just to get my bearings, so I could take the van and then sleep a couple of nights, check out the island, had dinner with them. It was really lovely. Had an oldies evening dinner. They all met up with their friends on a Wednesday night at this thing called the Surf Lodge, and we all had a burger and beer combo, and I thought, this is what senior life is like. This is what the oldies rock. This is sick. I was sick until you realise, oh, okay, well, the night's still young. They're all heading home, going to sleep, and the bloody sun's still up. 30 in a few days, but still kind of, I've got the youth. I ended up going where my pet sits were going and used that as a base. Gabriola Island, and I was spending a couple of days here exploring different parts of it. Looking at Malaspina galleries was so cool. That's in some of my earlier videos. So I took the van to a place called Duncan. I had a gentleman at one of the pubs in Lake Cowichan Bay, which is one of the other spaces on Vancouver Island. You get in that headspace not wanting to talk to people in Melbourne, or you just like kind of, I've got to finish my assignment. I don't need to bother with someone just trying to chat to me, or like, this guy's so strange, I don't need to talk to him. But when I'm overseas and I'm exploring and I'm trying to meet new people, I'm trying to network, I feel a bit more calm and relaxed, a bit more open. When some guy at the pub is just like, beautiful night tonight, isn't it? Oh, he doesn't sound like an Aussie. He's probably like, beautiful night tonight, isn't it? Look, he could be a bit insane, but I'll talk to him. Why not? And then I'm like, yeah, it is, isn't it? And then I start talking to him, and we were back and forthing, and I told him a little bit about where I was staying, and I said, oh, I'm staying in Duncan. And he's like, oh, what's wrong with Duncan? He's like, have you got a gun? No, I'm pretty sure I got bear spray, but I can't get a gun. I don't think I legally can as an Australian. How sus would that be? Hey dude, can I get like a big shotgun? But he's like, yeah, you gotta be careful around Duncan. I'm like, oh, okay, good to know. I wish I had known that going there, because when I got into Duncan, the first place I went to was like the Wendy's, and I went to the window. I was just walking around at like 11:30 at night, just trying to see if there's anywhere I could, go into the 24-hour spots. And turns out the 24-hour McDonald's and the 24-hour Wendy's and 24-hour spots, they don't actually allow you to go in. So they shut at probably like 10:30, and you can't get in there. You just have to order at the window, so they only do drive-through. So be mindful of that. If you do get there late, or you do get there and you do want some food, they just do takeaway at most of the spots. There was a casino in Duncan, like nearby. There's a casino deal, 9:30 a.m. You can get there. Free $5 casino play with breakfast. Apparently all the casinos are owned by the Indigenous, because there's a law that bypasses Indigenous people having to pay tax. So that's why they run a lot of the casinos. Didn't know that. Don't quote me on that if it's wrong. That's what I've heard. All the power to them. Take as much money from the white man as possible. I'd use the pet sit as a base, and I'd go to where I was staying with the animals, and then I'd use that base as my little day trips. Duncan is a town in between Nanaimo and Victoria. Arguably, this is my personal opinion, Nanaimo and Victoria are the two hubs of Vancouver Island. Victoria's a bit more like, hey, oh yes, welcome to Victoria. We're great to have you. A couple of wines on the beach, yes, darling. Yeah. The Nanaimo's kind of like a bit more like, what's going on, bro? How you going? Yeah, sweet. Actually, that's more Tofino. Nanaimo's a bit more like, yes, we're wholesome here. We like to have our organic market and blah, blah, blah. But Victoria's like the hub. Victoria's like I think the capital of Vancouver actually. But my understanding and what I explored, the further north you go, the more rural, the more tracks, the more you are really in the wilderness, the more out of the way things feel. Like up towards Port Hardy, Port Alice, Port McNeill, all the ports up in the north. Between Nanaimo and Victoria, Duncan towards down, it's a bit more commercialised, a bit more going on, a bit more happening, a bit more hustle and bustle, a little bit closer to what you would expect downtown Vancouver to be like. It felt like a recreation of downtown Vancouver on Vancouver Island. You can keep going down towards past Victoria and then head out down the bottom. That's where the souk potholes are, and you can head out to Port Renfrew. That's where I went last time a few years ago, and I went up and there's these logging roads that go through the middle. I would argue that you wouldn't need to go through the middle of Vancouver. You could potentially come into Nanaimo or come into Victoria. You can come into either one on the ferries. You just have to take the Tuasin, or have you say that, ferry from the Vancouver mainland. Get to either location and start from either Victoria or Nanaimo as a hub. If I was going to start in Nanaimo, I'd actually go up north first and go up towards as far as Port Hardy and Port Alice. Check it out, be there. In my opinion, unless you're staying up there or doing a massive hike or doing a northern hike, and you're prepared for it, which you should highly be prepared for a hike if you're going to go up there. I'd only spend one night there in each location. There's honestly not much going on unless you're doing a hike or unless you're exploring or unless you're going for a scuba dive or you're doing an activity. You can do whale trips, kayaking and paddleboarding and stuff, but plan a trip if you're going to head up north. If you really like your peace and quiet, head straight up north. But if you like the action, I would then go down back past Nanaimo, visit little towns. Like you can go to Courtenay, Cumberland, Elk Falls is really cool. Spent a whole afternoon there. That was awesome to check out. And they're kind of on the way up to the north, and there's heaps of stuff that you can stop at along the way. If you like being around restaurants and like the commercial aspect around other people and bars and stuff like that, but still want to have like your little day trips, I'd stick to Nanaimo and Victoria. But if you head back down towards Nanaimo, you can pop into Duncan. It's got a very small town vibe. They have a Saturday market every week. It's very cute. Various points you can have rest stops. You can head back down through Victoria. There's also a spot where you can go up towards the airport in Victoria, and it has a few beachy spots. Something that I experienced was I was trying to go around the coastline and just do the edge everywhere. Have to be mindful that the edge of a lot of the island is people's houses and people's places. At the moment, I'm currently like underneath some rock spaces, but behind me is pretty much just people's places that are overlooking the beach, the lucky bastards. If you want to do a tour of the island, best thing to do is to explore the main road, and then when it has a beach access or a forest access or a park access or a this access, those are going to be your good spots to find a way to go down to the beach and see the right at the water. Like this is a main access as well, and that's a lighthouse. Either start in Victoria, start in Nanaimo, and then do like this kind of crab claw looking thing, so you can get the bottom, you can get the middle towards Tofino, which goes right through the middle, and then you can get the north, all the ports up the top. That's how I did it anyway. That's how I experienced it. Sleeping in the van. Sleeping in the van was an experience. The van saved me between pet sits because I didn't have anything booked for 12 days. And there was that chunk in the middle between the Duncan pet sit and this Gabriola pet sit that I didn't have anything. So without the van, I would have had to find a hostel. I could have bounced around between places, potentially would have had to get a motel or a hotel. Minimum I would have been spending would have been $60 to $80 Canadian a night. I'm very lucky in that regard that it saved that aspect, and it was like, but man, I didn't check how big the back of the van was. I didn't lay down. I didn't ask Rob for the measurements when he first told me he was going to give me the van. I just kind of went with it, and I was like, this is sick. I've got a van. This is sick. And then the reality hits you. The fridge doesn't work. The top of the van, like the extra bed, nearly caved in on me when I slept because one of the panels sort of came loose. The bed was too short. I had to sleep diagonally in the square. I had to sleep like that so I could fit, because I'm 6'2", big boy, 6'2", but I couldn't fit straight. It worked for Rob and Hillary because I'm taller than both of them, and it would have, if they had used it. I think Rob's not too much shorter than me. Spent a lot of time either kind of cradling a pillow and putting it between my legs, and doing like the fetal position, or if I wanted to kind of lay out, I would kind of Dracula it in a diagonal position, and it wasn't cozy. I got used to it, so once you get used to it, it was okay. But at the start, I was like, fuck, how did I not measure the back? I wasn't going to not take it because I didn't fit fully properly in the back of the van. It's still an awesome opportunity. And there was one point right towards the end. If Rob and Hillary ever see this, I apologise. Hillary, this is why I didn't drop you in the van at the airport. So 10 days I was in the van. For the 9 days I was in there, bowels were fantastic. I was actually surprised that nothing was bad. Peed a lot. This reminds me, I've got to empty the van's toilet, actually. I've got to put that under my notes. I can't forget about that. And it saved me so many times where I was busting out of the toilet and it was like 10 at night, all the public toilets are shut. You really do have to be prepared, because if you can't go to the toilet, like, it's really hard. You have to find a toilet. If I didn't have a toilet in my van, I would have been stranded. I would have been pooing in some bush, or I would have been like trying to find a spot in the middle of the road. I know that was really tricky when I had the rental car ages ago and I was traveling across there from west to east. But having that toilet and just being able to go back, there were many times where I was like parked in a Walmart car park. I'm just dropping trowel. I'm just dropping trowel, like I'm just not butt naked, but I'm like, everything's out as I'm just kind of like adjusting myself, and it's this tiny little crevice in the back of the van that I have to kind of fit myself into because I'm so bloody tall. And it was very awkward. It saved me. It was really good until day 10. For whatever reason, I had stopped having iced coffees. I'd like completely flushed out my system to the point where I hadn't been having any coffee, hadn't been having a lot of sugar actually as well, which was really, really good. And I feel like my body was finally kind of getting over the cravings of wanting an iced coffee back in Australia. I went to a Save on Foods, and I was just feeling a little bit in the feels. So then the way I tend to cope with my feelings is I eat a lot, and I eat a lot of sugar and chocolate and stuff like that. So I bought a big chocolate milk, which I hadn't had a chocolate milk in ages. And then I bought a 12-pack of cookies, and I just smashed all the cookies and I smashed the chocolate milk. It's like a warm hug for myself in edible form. There's a lot of problems there, that's okay. a lot of trauma there, that's all right. It wouldn't even been 30 minutes later, I went for a wander because I was so tired, and my stomach started churning, and I was like, oh my God, this isn't a normal, like, I need a fart kind of deal. Food poisoning level quick kind of stomach churning, like, okay, I need to get back to the van quick. And I'm kind of like doing the clench thing again, which I think I mentioned in another video, profusely trying to make it back to the van. I'm in a Savin Foods car park, drop trowel. I have done the most diabolical poo, top 10 most diabolical poos I've ever done in my entire life in the back of this van. It stunk out the entire van, and I'm not going to get into too much detail because I don't need to describe this too much on YouTube or wherever this is going to be posted. But it stunk out the van so badly. This is my own brand, mind you. It was so pungent, and it was like, I couldn't get the fan to blow it all out quick enough. And because I didn't have enough time to air out the van or leave it open or find anywhere to park and open it, I just kind of dealt with the stench. And when I got to Gabriola Island, it still reeked, and I was cleaning out the toilet with some cleaning products from Gabriola Island and from their place, and just making sure that it was all clean, used heaps of toilet cleaner and had the fan on for almost a day just to make sure that it aired out and I could take all my things out. It was horrific. If you absolutely have to go number 2, try and prepare yourself. Try and have it somewhere else. Don't go in the camper van if you get a camper van. My God, that sucked. That was so bad. Long story short, over time I got more comfortable about sleeping in the van in random locations, but right at the start it was really intense because I didn't know if I was going to get booked or get a ticket or get towed away in the van as I was sleeping in it. Like I was that nervous about sleeping in the van the first few times, but as I got more confident and as I spent more nights in different places and no one knocked on the window, no one said anything, no one gave me eyeballs when I was coming out of the van with my little toiletry bag and going to the toilet and brushing my teeth and doing all my stuff in the toilet, no one was saying anything about it. I think changing location, getting confidence over time made it a bit easier to be in the van. Pet sitting, the good, the bad and the ugly. I did pet sitting through trusted house sitters. In exchange for accommodation, I've stayed looking after other people's pets. They can go on their holidays and I can get a free place to stay, a base for me to have a shower, get things done, and it doesn't cost me anything. The good is that you save so much money on accommodation doing it. The 2 sits that I've done so far, Duncan one, Lisa and Doug were so lovely and they were so accommodating, so understanding, let me stay an extra night there when I needed to. They got a bike for me out of the blue randomly, let me eat pretty much whatever I wanted in the fridge and the pantry, let me use their barbecue, gave me some recommendations and was super flexible. The accommodating nature of these pet sits so far has been unbelievable. Rob and Hillary, they didn't have to give me a van. They didn't have to allow me to eat anything in their pantry, in their freezer. And they're going to get a little bit of a shock because I've been going to town on this food. Like I've been going through their freezer and they said, have anything you like in the freezer. I'm a grown boy who's just started running again, guys. Rob took me to BCAA to get insurance for roadside assistance, and we went to the Gabriola office to get insurance on the van updated and he put me on as a secondary driver. Instead of getting my own full insurance for the whole RV, he was on his insurance. Yes, it's been a bit expensive to set it all up and it was quite a bit of money and the fuel was a bit of a shock. The pet sitting was something that for the first month and even in beyond has been so unbelievably helpful, being able to explore the island and feel like, oh, okay, like that relief of I don't have to keep moving around hostels or I don't have to find a new spot. And the house I'm in at the moment is this 3-story incredible house on Gabriola Island. Queen bed, there's a shower right near the town. Yes, it's a little isolating. That's the only thing, is you're not in a hostel where you're meeting people and you're chatting to people, which actually reminds me I probably should stay in a hostel at some point. You're not paying for accommodation. It is a really, really cool way to explore different parts of wherever you are. And I'm going to probably continue using it for the next few months. I've got August booked in a certain location, potentially September, the whole September booked in another location. That has been the good part about pet sitting. The difficult, challenging parts about pet sitting has been, it's still to some degree work. A lot of the time, the animals that you're looking after in general, I will do a whole video about pet sitting and the way to get to do it effectively and my opinions and stuff like that. You're still minding other people's animals and they're not your animals. You don't know who they are, you don't know what their idiosyncrasies are until you're looking after them. So the owners can say whatever they like about the animal. When you have a dog or a cat or animals in your care and either they've never been left with anyone else before or they're new to you, you are a stranger. So just as much as you getting used to them, they're getting used to you. They might be more difficult, they might be defiant, they might do things that you don't expect, they might do things that the owners don't expect. That is the reality of pet sitting. And it can be quite difficult and you have to have a lot of patience. I think that's a really stark reality of the pet sitting in exchange for accommodation. This is me being frank. If you're a piece of shit and you do the pet sit and you just lock them in a room for the whole day or the whole day and night, don't interact with them or don't take them on walks, treat them like they're kind of your own dog if you've never had an animal before. If you're just like, oh, no, I'm in another country, I'm just gonna put them away, don't pet sit. People like that probably will, but if you treat the animals poorly, it's still your responsibility to look after and make sure that the animal's cared for. If you have a soul and if you have a heart, it is difficult to let go. For myself personally, it's difficult to take a step back. Maybe the dogs they're being a bit difficult. I'm currently looking after a 15-year-old spaniel. He is very, very deranged. When I want him to come inside the house, I say, come on, Moosey, come on. And he just loops the house. And then I wait for him to loop and I'm like, come on, Moosey, let's go. And he loops again. So I've worked out different strategies and tactics like, okay, I'm not going to wait for him to loop. I'm just going to get his lead, put him on a lead and bring him inside. Those things that you learn over time after some frustrating times dealing with those idiosyncrasies and changes, and reactivity is a big one. It's not a walk in the park. They wake you up at a certain time. They've got their routine, and if they're not used to being set for other people, you do acclimatise to their routine, and it can be a lot. It definitely has its challenges, but I think the free accommodation and lovely nature of some of these couples that get you in, because they know that you're a traveller. They know they've had people come through that are other travellers that are touring, that are seeing other parts of Canada, and they just want the best for you. So I could not highly recommend it more. It's just, it can be a lot that you need to be mindful of. Obviously there's an end date for this, but it's 2 years. And last time I had an end date and that was a month and a half, and I'm like, okay, I'm going back. And I didn't have this need to find work, to find a place to stay. I could spend 2 nights somewhere and be like, okay, off to the next place. This experience so far, knowing that I'm here to work, here to live, here to experience, bouncing around between different spots at the start, it's hard not having a fixed location, not having a fixed place. And it gets quite overwhelming, especially in the van when I was finding different spots to stay. It was a bit of a task to get done each night. Some nights I was like, oh, okay, 11 o'clock I'll find a spot. And then you're absolutely exhausted for the next day because you're trying to find a space to park the van when you're already stressed about not doing it regularly. And when it started to get a little bit dark, that's when I'd start to scope out a place. But the no fixed place to stay, it's a lot. In my mind, I'm trying to find a stable base. I'm trying to find routine. I'm trying to find where I am suited for a long period of time. That is difficult at the start. When you're trying to explore, you're trying to release and trying to have fun. And I realised in the back of my mind, I've always got that thing of you will have to find somewhere to eventually choose and settle, which is hard for me to accept because I'm so used to moving around too. Cost and logistics. Initially for the first month, I spent a lot of money on my own emotions, if that makes any sense. So I spent a lot of money comfort eating, stress eating, dealing with the transition. And when I hadn't really prepared myself for the van and like I forgot the pan in the van, I was like, oh, I'll just go out to eat tonight. The takeaway dinners can get away from you. Because I was in holiday mode at the start, I'd start to get in that mindset of, oh, well, I haven't got the salmon crunch wrap sorted, so I'm just going to go to tacos. And then you end up spending $40, $50, $60 Canadian on dinner and drinks and maybe a dessert. And then you realise, wow, I've got to rein it in here. It can get away from you, but I think just being mindful that whatever your vice is back home, whatever your vice is in whatever country you're coming from, it follows you. You don't really have it under control at home. Say for instance, it's been really, really hard for me with FOMO and seeing everyone's accounts and fun and stuff. And Pitch Black just came out, which I'm stoked about. And my friend Alex is opening all his cards at the moment. He's like, I got the SIR. And I'm like, it hurts because Pokemon's such a big thing for me, but I can't buy any packs over here because it's just not commercially viable or financially viable for me to be buying any Pokemon card packs over here at the moment, it sucks. It's hard because I've been collecting for such a long time, but I'm in the mindset now of being smart about what's the next steps and logistics and where I'm going to have a base and where I'm going to work. It's not like the holiday I had a few years ago where I was spend. I think everything I've described at the start of this video, everything I've talked about, strategy and how I've explored it, definitely could do it better, but it depends on what you like and what you're like as a person and what you have available to you. For example, if you're a teacher, if you're a paramedic, if you're someone with an online business, if you're someone that has maybe transferable jobs or you're a doctor and you're qualified, you have your ability to do your job in different places in different countries, and it's a very universal job, I'd highly recommend doing that over here as opposed to trying to find a job while you're here. My main focus at the moment has been trying to find work, trying to acclimatise, trying to get used to travelling around. Biggest goal at the moment has been finding out where I vibe the most, where I like to be around, and what gives me the most life in certain locations. And that's only going to come the more time I spend in different spots, the more time I spend exploring and trying out new things and just doing what I've been focusing on for the last month. Okay, we're back. I was riffing on my notes on the what it felt like section for 45 minutes to an hour, I think potentially an hour and a half, without realising that my phone had completely died in the location that I was filming. I'm at the pet sit that I'm at the moment in the backyard, as you can see, the nice shrubbery around me. It's been a really interesting month, and I think one of the hardest things I've had to deal with is the lack of routine and immense freedom that I have now, and then working out, well, what do I do next? Back in Australia at the time, in the lead up to going away, I was finishing a graduate diploma in psychology, selling all my stuff to prepare to move, managing my pet sitting arm of my business. I was managing the acting part of my business, trying to post content. I was trying to work on my American accent and maintaining social connections, catching up with people and trying to date as well, which was a very, very interesting exercise right before I had to go away to a big country. That culminated in task after task after priority here, priority there. I've got to come back to this assignment. I've got to come back to this. Oh no, I've got to make sure this is my main priority today. That was my mindset during my whole studies. It so consumed me that I was just after the next task and the next task and what's next mentality. To now, that mentality didn't dissipate. It didn't go. So I arrive here and then all I'm thinking is, I've got all this freedom. What's next? How can I solve Canada? How can I crush Canada? How can I crush Vancouver? How can I complete this? How can I solve this in such a way that I'm doing it the most efficient way? I was on ChatGPT fairly religiously right at the start, trying to be like, okay, what are the awesome landmarks to go to? Okay, souk potholes, I've got to head down there, and oh no, I don't want to spend too much time there because I've got to go back up to the pet sit, and how can I get to the north and the south and manage that efficiently? And slowly over the month, I've realized that yes, I've got all this freedom and all this time, but that mindset of what's next and completing and fixing and solving, it creates like this almost a bit of a prison in my own mind. Today, I just want to set up the camera and film a YouTube video without any focus on the outcome. To be very frank with you, it was a lot to set up this camera, get started and get talking, and now I'm already yapping again, which is nuts to think about, because when I get started, I can talk and talk and talk. It's the same thing with my stream. Sometimes I'll be feeling like I just do not feel like streaming tonight, or I just don't have the energy, or you know, how am I going to ask questions, blah, blah. And then as soon as that stream started or the camera's on, I am just flow of consciousness straight to the camera. And yes, I can clip it later, and editing Raf is going to be like, why did you talk so much? Be more of a doer with the freedom, getting that first action to start, and then obviously it will start to flow. Maybe do an audition and just choose one, start one small action, and that has really helped me with that feeling of immense freedom but not sure what to do with that freedom at the moment. So it's still dealing with it, obviously. There's also isolation that comes off the back of this immense freedom. I have left a lot of my friends at home. I've left really good networks and connections. I can't see some of my close friends and go out for dinner or give them a hug. So far away, I'm a whole Pacific Ocean away from a lot of those connections. Like, it's this weird interplay and this weird dichotomy between, I love my alone time, I'm a very solitary person. I can be quite a social guy, but I really do recharge being on my own and being on my own space, needing to be away from people. But at the same time, I absolutely love it when I have a deep connection with someone and I'm having a great one-on-one chat, or I'm on set and I'm acting and I'm performing and I feel like I'm part of a big cohesive creative piece, and I feel like there's flow in between different people. I feel so at home in those moments. The isolation makes what to do next really challenging at times. I'm looking online and I'm seeing like, oh, Gabriola Island, there's a whole pet sit, it'll cover the whole of July, I'm sorted. And then you get there, and I'm currently experiencing this at the moment, Gabriola Island and Vancouver Island as a whole is retirement party central. There's a discount to get the ferry over here to Vancouver Island and the ferries out to different islands where seniors don't pay anything. The main pub here, probably the only pub that goes past 9 o'clock here. The rest of the restaurants have all their seniors deals and seniors benefits and stuff like that. I could not tell you, unless you're in Duncan, even in different spots, most of the places shut at midnight. There's nowhere you could go at 3 a.m. for a kebab or a HSP. Coming from Melbourne, where I'd be going to clubs and they'd be open until 7, 8 in the morning, or the Tramp was a really popular club and I'd go till 11 in the morning. Revs, it would be all weekend. I was never a big club guy. Coming from a space where everything's on and always open to islands that do feel very isolating. Everything shuts early in the evening. It's still daylight when a lot of the venues and cafes and shops shut, even on the main island. The reality of that isolation has made me reflect and think. I'm a 29-year-old creative who likes to be around people in some capacity and connecting with people, be amongst the hustle and bustle, maybe really reflect on where I want to end up, where I want to live. Vancouver Island has been fantastic, but it has really given me a stark reflection on, okay, I couldn't live here for 2 years. And that's just me. I spoke to a gentleman up in Port Alice, which is the very north side. And if you think that these particular islands are separated from everything, the Port Alice, Port Hardy, all the north side, so secluded. There is barely anything going on. You could hear a pin drop, it's that quiet. This is the middle of summer. Apparently winter's a lot more busy up in the north. I went up there, there's not much going on at all, but it reminds me of rural towns back in Australia. Like, there was this town that I used to DJ in called Mansfield, and I have a lot of friends that I keep in touch with to some degree. Oh, a hummingbird. A lot of the locals I sort of connected with over the many years of DJing there, DJed 21st and even DJed some weddings later on. I've been out that way because I'm a big snowboarder too, and a lot of the locals said they just couldn't handle city living. It's just too much. It's just not them. It's growing up in a rural town. You're just like, the city is not for me. Same thing with this gentleman in Port Alice. He grew up his whole life in Port Alice when the mill was coming through and everything was sort of bustling. And he said that the pub that we were sitting at when we were all having a beer, he said that used to get rammed with 1,500 to 2,000 people on weekends, and it was just packed. They used to have an ice centre, like an ice hockey rink out there. He was happy being up there. He just couldn't handle the city. To whatever for him. Coming from a guy that grew up in the inner suburbs and loved being near the beach, back home in Australia, around people and jogging around people, that's what I really enjoy. Vancouver Island really cemented that for me, where it's like, this is an awesome place to explore, trek, see things, but Raf likes to be on mainland Vancouver where there's opportunities. I can go to an acting class, I can potentially sign up for yoga, go to the gym, all that good stuff, and then be around people my own age. One of the other things that I've felt has been quite challenging for me has been the lack of routine and the mental troughs that come with a big transition like this. And I think I've always been very hard on myself mentally. For a lot of my life, that's been something that I've been working through for myself. The biggest shift, I think, lately has just been setting up the camera, filming and doing stuff without focusing on the outcome, because the outcome for me is really important in my mind. A lot of views give me value, or if I'm not doing well in something, or if I'm not seeing progress, or I'm not landing jobs, it can really affect me in a way where I don't feel like I have value. And it becomes very exacerbated when you do a transition like this or you move overseas. All those feelings of inadequacy, they can really hit hard. But I've learned a lot about my mental troughs, where rejection for an audition, or if I get a rejection for a trusted house sitter sit, and that was accommodation for a whole month or something like that, and it hits hard, or I'm in a legal situation at the moment, and when I get correspondence from that, I see I try to not read it, it can spiral me for a few days where I don't have any motivation for anything. I eat more. I've been able to catch that more being on my own over here, and being able to see low troughs are me, the high spikes are me, where I'm going nuts. I'm auditioning for 5, 6 things a day, and I've got all this energy, and I'm super charismatic. The other YouTube video where I'm on the beach talking about Kinsel Trestle and stuff, like, that was a peak for me. I was going nuts. I was like, yeah, I can't wait to set up. Obviously, I do feel like that. But the last few days, last 3, 4 days, I've had a really big trough to the point where I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I here? No responses from job. That can be really hard. From a whole perspective, both sides are me. Both the troughs and the spikes are me. I'm more aware and more sensitive and more empathetic and understanding to myself because of that. I can get into the harsh headspace of, I'm having another trough again, this trough is never going to end, this sucks, I don't feel like doing anything. But knowing that that's how I operate, those troughs come and the spikes come, just managing that the best that I can and being aware of it has really, really helped. And it's just accepting that those are going to be a part of my life for quite a while, and that's okay. The lack of routine, I think it becomes exacerbated when I'm moving around. The lack of routine became very apparent, very tricky when I was in the van. I'd be jumping from place to place. I was so focused on what location would be next to sleep in. That was cool to have the different location and have a bit of a goal towards the end of the day, and that kept the focus changing. Routine was completely out the door. I usually have a routine where I'd brush my teeth and floss in the morning, because I've been flossing a lot more lately. My dentist had loved me. For 10 days, I'm like, I haven't flossed. And you feel like you've let yourself down. They're very small, trivial things. I'll be very transparent, because this is the whole point of the good, the bad, and the ugly of these videos. But I showered once the whole 10 days I was in the van. The rest was baby wipe, back sack and crack kind of deal. Pits, sack, crack, back. I didn't wipe my back. The only time that I really showered properly, where I got a proper shower, was in Nanaimo shower centre. Actually, it's funny to include as a story. I reckon it's a bit disturbing. I didn't grow up playing footy. I grew up playing basketball and soccer. And I never grew up showering with other blokes. Never really opted for public showers, or just everything was open. Paid for the entrance, and then I get into the shower part. I'm like, oh, it's an open shower. Great. So I've got my little bloody leather toiletry bag, got all my like shampoo and soap. I go into the open plan shower, and there's probably like 8 showers heads around. They're all pretty close to each other. There's some railing, there's some options for soap. For whatever reason, the soap that I'd bought from a shopping centre in Tofino or whatever wasn't soaping up properly, and the shower itself wasn't hot enough to like make the soap. And I had this like scratchy kind of exfoliating thing in the soap. Like, what have I bought? And it's not soaping me up. And I'm like standing there for ages, just trying to like do this for the soap and get the soap all soapy. And then like I'd do a layer, and I get itchy scalp sometimes when I'm not showering properly. It was the first time I'd used the anti-dandruff shampoo, and I was like, oh, it just felt like it was like burning, but also like a good burning. I'm like, oh, finally, this feels so good. But it just didn't feel like I was, you know, really washing my parts properly. And then I felt self-conscious about like, you know, doing the credit card swipe, because I thought like, who's watching me? And I think 3 Canadian teenagers came in and like, oh dude, like, oh, this is weird, someone's like sharing, it's so weird, blah blah. Like, great, this is cool, this is fantastic. I was soaping up still. I'm like, I just don't feel clean yet, and I just kept cleaning myself. And then I noticed this dude came in the shower directly behind me. I just faced the wall because I just wanted some privacy, but I could just feel him behind my back. I'm like, you're here a long time and you haven't got any shower stuff. And I just keep washing, and it just felt this presence behind me. I'm like, is he watching me shower? Like, is what you have chosen the one directly behind me? Are you watching me shower, mate? Like, what's going on? And then he'd turn, and then he'd be doing some stretches, and I'm like, okay. And then I'd turn back, and then he'd face. I'm like, yeah, that was fun. Open plan shower. It was great experience. We got all clean, and then I had my shave for the first time. I was growing a thick beard, feeling good, felt clean. Routine for me has been a big thing to combat my mental health issues, or the really low mental troughs. In the van, I couldn't shower. In the mornings, I just take off and I have the bed hair. It would be tricky because I'm kind of just that mental space of like, I like routine, I like structure, because it helps me think about, okay, I've conquered that starting point. Now the rest of the day is going to be okay. There are a few points where I felt groggy, or I'd have you know, the wipe, shower. I feel like that's become very apparent to me that routine is fairly important, especially when you're traveling around and moving different places. But if you're booking various different sits, or you're in a location where you can't do any of those things, or you're traveling in a place that's maybe a third world country or something, something like it is a completely different ball game. I found routine really helps in small ways, no matter what it is, like some kind of routine, walk that you do ritually, to flow on from the thoughts and the reflection on that what's next feeling, especially being here on the Gabriola Island, because I made a note in my mind, make this period the period where I knuckle down and I start applying for work, seeing what's out there in the market, knuckling down with content and what I can do to push myself forward into the spaces that I want to be in, where I want to be a working actor, that where I want a semi-successful YouTube, have people come back and comment and be interested in my content. First 2/3 of this month, I've been exploring, I've been trying out new things, I've been a little bit lax, not as restrictive as I could be with the spending on food, not so much experiences. The Tofino surfing was probably one of the most expensive things I did, and that was still pretty budget friendly. When I've really knuckled down into what the job market looks like at the moment, what acting auditions are out there, non-union versus union actors here, the opportunities that have come up so far. I've only been applying for a few days since being here, like actually applying myself and actually locking in and looking at what's out there. And it's been quite a stark hit. I applied for 34 jobs using my resume and pretty straightforward applications, where there'd be a few questions here and there on Indeed. 18 trusted house sitter sits, 40 or so acting auditions that just required my materials that I'd already produced, not an audition that required me to perform yet. I just wanted to get myself out there and see what was actually in the markets. When I did look through these systems, I looked through Backstage and I looked through Indeed for job applications, I looked through casting networks for auditions, and I signed up to the Casting Collective. So far, the only lead that is looking kind of viable for anything was this model waiter service for events, like for luxury events. I've signed up to them and they were responsive, so which is pretty cool. And then one UGC opportunity which wanted my likeness in perpetuity, which if you're in the UGC space for advertising, that means use your face forever. Now, I'm not about that anymore, especially for 400 Canadian. You'd think it's good, but not when 3 years later you're stuck in a contract and they won't message you and they just ignore you. That's happened with another client. I'm not even going to mention it. It's a pubic hair trimmer. Not even worth mentioning the brand. They suck. And it's like, because I signed a contract 3 years ago that said in perpetuity. I didn't really understand at the time. It's hit really hard because in my mind, when I'm seeing these platforms initially, even before I went over, I'd see there is 1,000 auditions that you can apply for. There's 1,000 jobs that you can apply for. And then when you put the filters on, and then when you put the areas on, the restrictions on, and your kind of target and what you've got and your skill set and your titles that you're appropriate for, it dwindles down to a lot less than I expected. For myself personally, and this has been a really big shift for me in, I think, business and life, dating too. Not that, you know, that weird, creepy, I don't know. I not really like the whole, as many no's as you can get before you get a yes. No means yes. And you're like, oh, I hope you can switch that off in other times. The casting far and wide, like this massive net, targeted net, mind you, and then dwindling down via negotiation. I've had the most luck in trusted house sitters where I've applied far and wide, short sits, big sits, and if it looks like it's just genuinely not viable, the targeted aspect has been, if it's 1 or 2 days, see you later. I'm a travelling Australian through Canada on a working holiday visa. The priority is the longer the better, working out from there. That has seen the most success where I've applied to all these sits. Just because I've applied doesn't mean it's locked in. It's just putting the feelers out there, doing outreach, and then realising, oh, okay, the reality of this sit is they need X, Y, and Z. That doesn't really suit me, but I've got another sit coming up. And as long as you have that pipeline, for me, I've found that like very eye-opening. Acting, for instance, is such a flippant industry, and job applications so far, I haven't had any response. Obviously, I applied on this weekend just gone, and it's now Monday. All my job applications might take a while to be viewed. There was probably about 6 or 7 that I saw on Indeed that were viewed. It's so important to cast far and wide in a targeted fashion. I'm not in a position to be picky at all. Like my networks back home, I could be picky because I would have DJ network built up over 9 years. A friend would say, have you got any availability this weekend? And that would come in, once a week, a few times a month. But here, there's no pipeline. Creating that pipeline has been the biggest eye-opener for me. be do as much as you can and then dwindle back and refine and negotiate, because being picky at the start can only happen if you're established, if you've got a pipeline, if you've got options. What I've learned, the biggest takeaways for me, do before thinking. As a naturally reflective, overthinker, sensitive guy, I can get bogged down and trapped into how do I perfect this? How can I best optimize my way so I'm not going to get hurt? Or how can I best optimize my pathway through this experience? You can't. There's so many outcomes that I can't control, but the only thing that I can control is my output. It's talking to a camera, it's setting it up, it's doing an audition. Doesn't matter what it is on the list of auditions that are out there. It's just picking one, doing it. Oh, that was fun, that was cool, I want to do more of that. For me so far this month has been do more, think less, because naturally as an overthinker, the less I think about things and just do them, I'm still going to be thinking about the prep and still that baseline of think about what you're going to do next year, right? Like subconsciously, compared to someone that doesn't think at all and just do all the time. If you are being pulled up on that yourself and you're constantly told like, why didn't you think about this? Or why didn't you think about me in this? Or you've just done something without even checking. If you get told that, then it's probably a good chance to think, okay, my first thought should be to reflect and work on reflection. But for myself personally, what I've experienced is I reflect so much. I think so much. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can take away the element of action. I'm going to go down this road because this is cool. And then you make a mistake and then you can refine from there. You can cast wide. Oh, I don't know if I should cast wide because it's going to be a waste of time. I've learned that cast wide in a targeted fashion. Casting too wide can be an issue, but casting wide in a targeted fashion is important. Not everything needs to be sold. The main things that I need to focus on and that I have really tried to dwindle it down to is food, accommodation, purpose. Those are the three main things. When accommodation is sorted for a long period of time, which at the moment it's actually looking pretty good and pretty stable for the next month or so, that's awesome to know that that's a stable base for me. That's one of the arms taken care of. And then food at the moment has also been taken care of to the point where there's this pet sit. I've been so lucky enough with Rob and Hillary who have said, have anything you like in the house. That wasn't expected, but it's now sorted for the whole sit and I don't have to think about that for a long period of time. It makes me think, okay, I've saved a lot of my runway for this period so I can use it for later. And then there's the purpose part, which I think is the most tricky and difficult arm that feels very lacking at the moment. I'm not auditioning. I'm not going to improv classes. I'm not at the gym. I feel very isolated. That has been something that I've been trying to work towards, is like where the YouTube videos come from, where the auditions and the job applications come from. And I don't have to solve it right now. I just have to apply, keep putting myself out there in a targeted fashion. Something eventually will pop up. It doesn't make sense to put hundreds and hundreds of applications out there and not get something. I've seen it on Trusted House Sitters where I've applied very far and wide in my targets and I've managed to secure accommodation for a long period of time, and that's been a lot of my focus. Even before I left, I was really stressed and uptight about finding the right job. If I take this job, how am I going to be able to do audition? Openly, honestly, I haven't been doing auditions because I've been transitioning so much and I've been dealing with the stress of being over here, difficult feelings of like just getting started and what audition to pick. I could have had a job and I could have not had a job. Potentially getting a job makes me more connected with the people at the job. It could be a barista, it could be setting up the events at the Calpiano State Swing Bridge, which I loved when I came to Canada last time. They had this whole Christmas setup. It was just such a fantastic event. Possibly being able to be involved in that and set up the decorations and then walk through your own creation. Imagine doing that and working with other people and then meeting someone on set. Oh, I'm an actor too, I'm an actress too. Bang. Initially when I started here, I can't pick the wrong job. I can't pick the wrong opportunity. I made a decision 9-10 years ago to purchase $12,000 worth of DJ equipment randomly because I absolutely loved it. And that turned into a business that helped me through that whole time. Met amazing people, made amazing connections with people I'm so close with now, and I wouldn't have had that if I didn't invest in DJing or I didn't go into that space. It's a month into a decision to move to Canada. I have no idea what's going to happen. Scary, it's fucking terrifying, but at the same time, I don't have to have everything solved yet. And that's what ChatGPT keeps telling me anyway, so that's right. The second last thing that I'll address is it has become very apparent having a stable base and also people you can connect with and a community of some kind. This was something that I experienced back in Australia. It was a bit of a weakness of mine. I would feel so fulfilled and so happy when I was amongst other creatives and acting and on a set or in a skit. It was so much enjoyment and flow. And yes, it was nerve-wracking learning lines or being in a performance. It can be a lot. But at the same time, some of my happiest moments were in a community of like-minded people. And that was something that I found really challenging to do because I was so solitary in a lot of my businesses. Pet sitting was very isolating. The DJing was very isolating. I was just in the corner doing nothing for 6 hours. And it really hit me that I really didn't have a community in that business, and it was repetitive, choosing isolating pet sits or choosing an island off of an island to live on, and realizing, okay, I would like to be among people and I'd like to have a stable base to go out from, and I can deal with the transition, I can deal with it, but having a stable base and being a part of some kind of creative community, whether it's through YouTube or skits or improv class or acting class, I think that's something that I'm really working towards. If you are transitioning, what kind of community can you become a part of? It could be simply just going to a yoga class. I feel at home here, everyone else is doing yoga and I've just been doing yoga at home for a few months. Doesn't matter where you are. And that segues into the biggest takeaway of this month. All your problems in the initial country that you left follow you. They don't leave. They don't magically evaporate because you've crossed the Pacific Ocean. Your mental health issues, your vices, your inadequacies, the way you feel about yourself, not only do they carry with you, they can become exacerbated and everything comes to the surface. I've really experienced that with the whole need to solve this, need to be of value, need to be creating value, I need to feel and put value out to the world so I feel loved. And that has been really stark to where I'm starting again. I'm a whole ocean away from close friends that really know me and see me. Everything comes up. It doesn't solve any of those feelings for you. The move doesn't fix anything. The reflection is there's nothing to fix unless you're a dickhead. This should probably fix a lot. It's given me the breathing room to see something really difficult in my personal life and it can spiral me for a few days. But I've learned that as I get my routine back, I do a YouTube video, I'm editing, and I get started on things, or I do an audition, or I meet someone, or I have a great conversation, or I do an activity like the Tofino surfing where I'm just in absolute awe of my experience and it was such a surprise. It puts me up on such a high. I'm a sensitive guy who feels things really deeply, so with those high highs comes really low troughs. Some people may not experience the high, the roller coaster, and I've said that a lot about myself over my life. It can feel like a roller coaster because of the ups and the downs, but that comes naturally from being a sensitive guy who feels things quite deeply and loves to have deep conversations and loves to be authentic, connect with people in a way better than like, oh, nice weather we're having. I want to know what really makes you tick. I feel it also makes me an incredible actor where I can feel someone's presence so deeply in a scene. That's why I naturally gravitate towards these kinds of professions like psychology, where I'm fascinated by human behavior because I've been so reflective in my own behavior. Your problems don't go away, but it gives you enough breathing room to see what's going on underneath the hood. Be more aware of it and tweak as you go and refine. I'm gonna have some really low points still for the rest of this trip and going well into beyond this trip, but I'm also going to have some amazing things that I never ever thought possible. Doing, experiencing, refining, and knowing that everything will be okay at the end of the day. Well, that's what my psych tells me anyway. So that's what it's been like for moving my life overseas for the last month. If you want to know anything in more detail about this video or things I've shared, please leave a comment. I would love a question. I'd love your thoughts on the video. If the ocean noises were too much or there was too much shrubbery in the video, let me know. If you didn't like certain aspects, what didn't you like? If you did like certain aspects, I would love to know. So please leave a comment below. That would be unreal. If you would like to hear more about my future endeavors and how I'm handling moving overseas and my acting and performing, chuck me a follow. I'd really appreciate it. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you watching. It's very cathartic for me to have these sort of like video diary things, share a lot about myself and my own journey. So thank you for being here. I hope it helped in some way. If it didn't, tough titties. And come back for the next video, eh? Oh, gonna have to get up there again, fuck me. I've got my little list so that I have an idea of what I'm talking about for this video. I should have done down here. That was way less complex than doing it up in that stupid little hole. Ran out of charge on my phone because I was yapping so much. Which, oh shit. I'm praying that you can't see if I'm manspreading or not. It's a squirrel. ASMR. Pinkies up. Hello, hello, I'm talking out here. I cleared the spider webs over there with my shoe, but I haven't cleared them on this side. We will make sure, don't you dare touch my Diet Coke. I'll skin you alive, you silly dog. Oh! What's the title of this video again? Hopefully nothing bites me. If anyone's a harbourist or knows their plants pretty well, you can just let me know if they're looking a little bit like they're dying. I love that. It's fantastic. God, I hope the sound and the visuals come through, because this is a cool spot. I don't have to come back here. Allabar Point. Apparently throughout this entire point, this is where the whales come through. And it's a well-known whale watching spot. So might come back here with a few beveraginos and watch the sunset. I get so distracted. I've got to lock in, but have fun. Lock in. What's the point of doing this if I'm not having fun? And that is a staffed lighthouse. That is a genuine person living in that lighthouse. Can't stop me filming you, mate. Buddy, come over to your island and get me. See what happens. Because I feel like I should give them a bit of a water. I moved my whole life overseas. Oh! Stick to the plan. You're gonna head back. I'm filming their island. I think I might be working. I don't know. Last month, and here's how it gone. Here's how it gone. Come on, Raf, lock in. I don't need to lock in, just riff. Actually, that's what I'll do. I'll set a timer for an hour and let it flow. Can anyone see my crotch? Yeah, just riff, keep it going, keep it fresh, keep it happy, and just like talk about each of the topics you've got on your, oh, don't lose the topic card. I think they're okay. Fuck, I ramble so much. I'm up to topic number 3. I ramble so much. There's lots of juice, there's lots of good stuff. I think the issue is, if the phone dies and I'm still rambling and I haven't got through my topics, then we've got an issue. They are so quick. That is unbelievable. I've never seen one in real life. That was unbelievable. Anyway, where was I? I might let that plane go past. My arse is hurting already. This is great. I'll just wait for the seaplane. So I thought I saw some what are they? No way. Fuck, I should have bought my glasses. Are they whales? Oh my God, what are they? Is they rocks? What are they? No way. What the hell are they? I probably should have thought about this. My phone's no fucking way. What are they? There's something moving. What are they? I can't see without my glasses. I didn't think about this at all. I'll definitely be back here. What are they? They're moving. There's something in the water, but I can't see what they are. Damn, whatever. Well, not whatever, it's cool. Smelly girl, smelly girl, smelly girl. Oh, Cinco. Big paws for a little princess, haven't you? These are really tight, these shorts. Oh. Keep in touch with to some degree. Oh, a hummingbird. My ass. Oh my God, my ass. Okay. Let's go. Where am I sitting? What the fuck was that? You gonna help me? How much time have I got? Far out. I've been yapping for so long. I hope the sound is okay. I really hope the sound is okay. I'll find out later. I can do another add-on, whatever. I need a drink. Fucking, when you're yapping for so long. I'll shorten the second parts, but this is what just been yapping. I've got so much editing to do now. Fuck me. Ooh. I might be in a bit of strife here. The tide's coming in a little bit. and the water's coming up real high. I don't know if this will change quickly. I just hit my bag. The water just hit my bag. I've got to finish this video real quick. I hope it's still filming. I don't even know if it's still filming, but I might have to finish the back of the house. If it gets a bit scary again, I'll finish the back of the house. Can you see that?